largely conducted in English with Spanish and English interpretation available on Channel 8. There will be remarks in English and in Spanish, so if you need a headset, if you just kind of raise your hand, we'll make sure you get one. All right, Channel 8, and they have headsets out here, all right? If you have a cellular device or other mobile device, we'd ask you to please turn it to silent for the duration of the ceremony. Thanks. We'll begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Jeff Murphy, and I'm the Perry Center Chief of Staff, and I'm honored to be your Master of Ceremonies for this year's 2016 Perry Award. As I mentioned earlier, the ceremony will be conducted in English and in Spanish, so if you need a headset translation, please be sure to pick one up. As is customary in many ceremonies in military organizations and military units, we'd ask you to please stand in a moment when the official party. All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the official party. Please be seated. I would now like to invite Mr. Mark Wilkins, Director of the Perry Center, to offer some remarks.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Perry Center. Great to see so many familiar faces here. We have ambassadors, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, general and flag officers. Great to see so many faces. U.S. government officials, including our own Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere, Dr. Chavez. Distinguished guests, family members, friends of the awardees, members of our Washington Defense and Security course that's underway right now. Welcome as well, ladies and gentlemen. Every year, members of the community and defense professionals gather here at the Perry Center to recognize those among us who have made outstanding contributions to defense and security education with an honor named in honor of our center's founder, the 19th Secretary of Defense, Dr. William Perry. It was Dr. Perry who ushered in, for those of you who might remember, a new doctrine during his era of prevention rather than deterrence. And by emphasizing the best collective defense and challenges before they happen, he carved out the academic space for centers like the Perry Center to be able to operate throughout the Americas, and by building programs that promote effective and accountable defense and security sector governance. And by building these platforms and breathing space where practitioners from around the hemisphere can gather in person or virtually and openly debate and propose responses to our pressing issues, we help frame and shape responses to emerging challenges. We have a full agenda today, and we're anxious to move on to the main act. But first, I would like to recognize Mr. Jay Cope. If I could get you to stand. Jay is our first director of the Perry Center. As many of you may know, this is Jay's last week on active duty. Now as a civilian, and that's the sad news. But I'm happy to announce that Jay has agreed to continue his affiliation with the Perry Center as a senior fellow. So we look forward to many more years of Jay's presence here at National Defense University. How about a round of applause for Jay? So our guest speaker today is Dr. Rebecca B. Chavez, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere, or simply DASD WHA, as we know her in our world. As DASD for the Western Hemisphere, she oversees strategy and policy for the Western Hemisphere, defense cooperation plans, and the integration of U.S. Northern and Southern Command efforts in support of that policy. Prior to this posting, Dr. Chavez was a professor at the U.S. Naval Academy, a principal strategic advisor on Western Hemisphere affairs for OSD policy, and a senior advisor to the commander of U.S. Southern Command. She's a native of the great state of Texas, and she received her MA and PhD in political science from Stanford University and her AB in public and international affairs from Princeton University. Please give a warm Perry Center welcome to Dr. Rebecca Chavez.
Thank you, Mark, for that gracious introduction, and thanks to all of you for being here today. It's wonderful to see so many old friends and gathered here today, and Ambassador Philip Spencer, it's a treat to see you, and Jay Cope. We will have time to celebrate you on another day soon, but I just want to take this opportunity to just say what a pleasure it has been to work with you, and how relieved I am to hear you're going to continue your affiliation with the Perry Center. I want to extend a special welcome to General Mancia and to Dr. De Leon, who are here today, traveled here today from Guatemala to accept Perry Awards on behalf of the Center for Defense Policy and Studies and the Technical Secretariat of the Guatemalan National Security Council. We are honored that you're here with us today. I find myself, and I'm sure many of you finding yourselves probably spending too much time exploring how to address the challenges facing our countries. Transnational criminal organizations that traffic guns, money, drugs, and people without regard to borders or respect for life. Gangs that use violence and fear to hold communities hostage. Our challenges can sometimes seem overwhelming, but a day like today provides us an opportunity to step back and see the big picture. The Americas is a zone of peace. Today, interstate warfare is non-existent in the hemisphere. Government transitions are democratic and peaceful, and respect for human rights is enshrined in law, and many of our region's armed forces have institutionalized respect for these rights. We've arrived at this place because we've worked together, sharing our resources and our best practices to address the threats of today. We've built the mutual understanding that positions us to confront the challenges of tomorrow. Collaboration is the only way to advance our strategic interests, address our shared challenges, and ensure prosperity. Our collective success is based on relationships built on trust, respect, and mutual determination. And there's probably nowhere else in the Americas where more of these relationships are forged than here at the Perry Center. Most of you are familiar with the Perry Center's impact over the past 19 years and why it has earned the esteem of presidents and ministers. But for those of you who don't, let me explain. The Perry Center is a credible, a respected, and a reliable partner. The Center's credibility is beyond question. Mark Wilkins and his predecessors have assembled a world-class faculty that combines bona fide academics with real-world practitioners. They have experience in uniform and in civilian capacities from across the U.S. interagency, but also from the highest level of partner nation defense establishments. The faculty, student, and alumni are greater than the sum of their parts. When the faculty from the Perry Center are called upon to speak to gatherings of defense professionals, when their sought-after research is published in prominent academic journals, when they're asked to testify before Congress or to provide commentary on TV, it's not because they're Department of Defense mouthpieces, which they aren't. It's because they're the preeminent experts on security and defense in the Americas. I personally come to the Perry Center as the place to have frank, informed dialogues with counterparts and with leaders in civil society, because this is where we can discuss the most pressing issues in a safe, neutral, academic environment. And when they're not teaching, Perry Center faculty are conducting innovative research and publishing findings that are relevant, timely, and actionable for defense leaders. The center's work, including pieces that are critical of U.S. policy, directly informs policymakers in the Pentagon. Speaking from my office, I can say that we would not fully achieve our mission without the support of the Perry Center. I find myself turning to the faculty of the center time and time again for their cutting edge understanding of defense governance, defense reform, defense building, which is a priority line of effort for DoD. Partner nation governments draw on center expertise in developing national-level strategy documents, from national security strategies to defense white papers to implementation plans. As I mentioned up front, the Perry Center is also reliable. With 19 years under its belt, it has shown its partners that it's here for the long haul. The 5,000 plus alumni network, they make up a fixture in defense establishments, and they've become a community of those advancing hemispheric security. Many countries' senior leaders hone their defense expertise, at least in part, in Perry Center classrooms. And among such leaders is Dr. Silvia de Leon, who joins us today on stage and can be counted on as one of the center's most esteemed graduates. No U.S. official can take credit for the center's successes. The Perry Center has always been a shared project. For almost 2 decades, so many of you and your predecessors have supported the center with your scholarship, with your advocacy, and most important, by sending the very best and brightest of your defense establishment to come here to share views and to learn from one another. I humbly ask that you continue to do so. Send your best. We'll continue to learn from one another, and I promise you'll get the best that the Defense Department has to offer. As I said at the beginning of my remarks, the Americas is a zone of peace, but the challenges we face are real. They are transnational, they're complex, and they're adaptive. They operate in domains both physical and virtual. No country can go it alone. Only when we work in concert, forging relationships based on mutual respect, can we realize a hemisphere that is safe, secure, and prosperous. And nowhere do more of these relationships begin than right here at the Perry Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. I would now like to invite Mr. Pat Patterson, Professor of Practice at the Perry Center, to offer some remarks.
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pat Patterson. I'm a professor here at the Perry Center. I want to take a few minutes to talk about the history of the center and the history specifically of the Perry Award that we're here on stage to talk about today. The Center for Hemispheric Defense Studies was established in 1997 to educate civilian and military officials in 35 Latin American and Caribbean nations on security and defense matters. The U.S. Secretary of Defense at the time, Dr. William J. Perry, was approached by his counterparts at a Minister of Defense summit in the lake region, a beautiful lake region of Argentina, San Carlos de Bariloche, who asked him to develop a program and a school that would train civilian officials in defense matters. The militaries in the region know these issues well, but training civilians in these issues was something new and something that very few institutions could provide. The center opened its doors on September 17th, 1997, followed by a two-day hemispheric conference on education of defense issues. We had our first course about 6 months later in March of 1998, the Defense Planning and Resource Management course. Since then, we've had scores of courses, outreach programs, conferences, workshops, focused research. We have over 860 publications in our publications library. We've had 6,000 students pass through our doors. And our objective is to train senior civilian and military officials in the region to build strong, sustainable networks of security and defense leaders and institutions. In doing so, the Perry Center promotes greater understanding of U.S. policy and supportive approaches to security challenges and improved and sustained institutional capacities of these units. Our audience runs the whole range of officials in the region, from very young, emerging professionals who are up and coming in their units or in their programs, to mid-grade managers who are need to deepen their understanding of complex security issues in the region, to very senior officials, like we have here on the stage today, who are wrestling with extensive bureaucratic problems and national security strategies. We focus our programs on civilians, normally about a 75-25 ratio when we can achieve it. Because in accordance with civilian military theory, the military forces in the region should be subordinate to elected civilian officials. Okay? And as we know that the armed forces have a long history in the region of active political participation. On April 2nd, 2013, right here on this stage, the Center for Hemispheric Defense Studies was renamed the William J. Perry Center for Hemispheric Defense Studies. And we had our namesake, Dr. William J. Perry, the 19th Secretary of Defense in the United States, up here with his protege, now the Secretary of Defense of the United States, Ash Carter, to unveil our new shield and to unfurl our new logo, our new name. Today, the Perry Center is one of 5 regional academic centers in the world who work for this Undersecretary of Defense for Policy and indirectly support the geographic combatant commanders. In our case, we are the only one that serves 2 COCOMs. We serve both the U.S. Southern Command out of Miami, Florida, as well as the U.S. Northern Command out of Colorado Springs in Colorado. Our staff and faculty are a real team of all-stars. I don't say that just because I'm one of them. We have a pretty big challenge and a unique set of skills, if I may say so, to be knowledgeable not only on academic theories of democracy, rule of law, counterinsurgency, criminology, and those issues, but we also have to have another understanding on issues for the region. Latin American and Caribbean politics, history, culture. We have to be fluent in Spanish and Portuguese to deliver our courses. We have to be experienced in military strategy and operational concepts related to it. And we have to be knowledgeable of our own security enterprise here in the United States, at the Pentagon, as well as other forms of agencies within the government. As many of you know, the COCOMs have some unique characteristics. They're joint, which means they have representatives from all the services, all the military services. They have interagency representation from dozens of different departments within the government. And they're international in the sense that they have foreign liaison officers working with them who help us work closely on mill-to-mill and country-to-country issues. But despite all those impressive characteristics of our COCOMs, there's one part that's missing. and that's the academic piece, okay? The Perry Center fills that gap. The Perry Center does academic researches and provides courses on these complex security and defense matters that our defense leaders then have to convert into policy and practice. No other component within the DoD offers this skill set, this academic contribution on regional matters. We've got some tough tasks in front of us. We have to figure out whether monodora tactics work in the region, whether to focus on supply side or demand side elements of a counter-drug strategy, how to make the internal institutional processes of our institutions effective, what the center of gravity is for organized crime that is beleaguering our countries throughout the region, what the sources of corruption are, for example, where those come from, and how to best counter those, and where the lines are drawn with the autonomy and the authority of the military institutions in the region, who have a very important mission that have to work closely with the civilian elected officials. And also, for example, how to demobilize and reintegrate into Colombian society 7,000 former insurgents of the FARC that Colombia is now wrestling with today. And the strange thing is that sometimes these academic theories may be counter to conventional thinking. That's to say, sometimes the results that we find, our conclusions, are contrary to the practices that we've had for a long time. Let me give you some examples. When Graham Allison wrote his famous Essence of Decision in 1971, he contended for the first time that decision makers didn't always have all the data, that they weren't always rational actors that could make an informed cost-benefit analysis of the issues. On the contrary, there's other influences in decision makers, in their decision making, such as government bureaucracy, organizational politics, and others that would affect and limit their decisions, making them almost irrational in some cases. And as you can imagine, this is very important when we wrestle with issues like weapons of mass destruction and the motivations of Kim Jong-il or Saddam Hussein in 2003, or the policy of mutual assured destruction during the Cold War. Or consider another example, Stanley Milgram's experiments in 1974 at Yale University, his infamous experiments that demonstrate that obedience to authority will trump the moral fortitude of soldiers. Okay? Very important in our region when our soldiers and our policemen are fighting against very violent criminal organizations, forcing them to realize that at times they have to disobey unlawful orders. According to Milgram, the obedience to authority would trump those moral decisions. Mansur Olson, a professor here at the University of Maryland, just outside the Beltway, also did another academic theory that turned conventional thinking on its head when his collective action theory in 1965 demonstrated that not everyone is always on board with a collective action for mutual interests. And that's an important thing to recognize as we face serious impending decisions and crises associated with global warming, rising seas, and diminished water supplies in the Andes and other places, as we try to figure out how to manage the commons for these crises. These are the examples of the kind of academic studies that we work hard here at the Perry Center, very important to our policymakers. In short, we take complex real-world problems, we examine them through quantitative and qualitative methodologies. We try to eliminate intervening factors and variables to distinguish between mere correlation and true cause and effect. And then we pass those recommendations to our senior leaders, our stakeholders at the Office of Secretary of Defense and within the COCOMs, so they can put it into practice and make our region more safe and more prosperous. The William J. Perry Award that we're on stage to talk about today was first established in 2007 as part of the Center's 10th anniversary. It recognizes these types of academic innovators and critical thinkers. The awardees can be either individuals or organizations that, through education, research, outreach, or scholastic leadership, have contributed to the knowledge base of defense and security practitioners in the region, advanced a cooperative and international security environment, or promoted sustainable institutional capacity for our organizations in the Americas. The awardees have made sustained contributions in their fields in a manner consistent with the Perry Center mission, and that's why they're recognized today. On behalf of all the faculty and staff here at the Perry Center, a sincere congratulations to this year's winners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat, for your insightful comments about the center. At this time, I would like to ask Mark Wilkins to return to the podium for the presentation of the 2016 Perry Awards.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Pat, as well. I've said since the first day I got to the Perry Center, the calling card of this center will be our faculty, and every day they're working and on parade around this hemisphere, and I couldn't be prouder of them. And we're good, and we're getting better every day. For those of you who work in policy support, international relations, think of them as a strategic asset on your behalf. Before we move on to this year's awardees, I did want to take a minute and thank those who took the time to submit the packets for the awardees of this year. And we have actually two people here today who submitted winning packets. One is Jay Cope and one is Dr. Chapeton. And I wanted to thank you and so many others who took the time to nominate people for this award. And I can tell you from on behalf of the awards committee, who considered literally dozens of really well qualified applicants, there could have been any number of well qualified winners on the stage today. And so thank you for those of you who took the time. And this year's awardees are truly outstanding and really do justice to the honoring defense and security education that makes us a more secure and prosperous hemisphere. Before we move on to the institutional awards here today, I would like to mention that we did have an individual award winner for this year. That was Ambassador Luigi Einaudi. Those of you who know him know how deserving he is of this award. He's currently on travel in Europe, and when he returns from Italy, I believe he's in, we'll have his award in a separate ceremony. But for those of you who know him, 65 years of public service, our ambassador and representative to the OAS, among other things, brokered the Peru-Ecuador peace accord, and then after his State Department career was over, went on to serve as the OAS Assistant Secretary General, and then the Acting Secretary General, and then went on to a further academic career here at INSS and in think tanks around town. So we'll get to the ambassador when he gets back, but I did want to mention that. We would like to proceed to the institutional awards today. Today we honor the Technical Secretariat of the National Security Council of Guatemala and the Center for Defense Policy Studies, also of Guatemala and a part of their Ministry of Defense. Together, these two institutions have made significant and sustained contributions to hemispheric security. First, the Technical Secretariat. The leadership of the Technical Secretariat has been invaluable in producing a modern and comprehensive understanding of national security in Guatemala, in part through the development of various national security documents that respond to current and future security environments. By authoring a national security policy informed by practitioners over government, articulating a 5-year strategic plan for realizing these policies, and then outlining an agenda for implementation, the Technical Secretariat has organized all of Guatemalan society and defense actors behind a common set of achievable goals. Moreover, the publication of a comprehensive security white book was a momentous achievement for the country and provided a framework upon which future policymakers can continue this work and institutionalize the work of the past several years. This white book documented the path taken by the Secretariat in engaging with their public and private sector stakeholders in reaching consensus on the principles and values through which the state would legitimize their policy, those being peace, liberty, democracy, justice, and finally, respect for human rights. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, certainly to the Perry Center, the Technical Secretariat shares these best practices and lessons learned with their Central American neighbors and other defense leaders inside the Americas. Today, Silvia Marinelli de Leon Garzona, the current Technical Secretary of the National Security Council of Guatemala, will accept the Perry Award on behalf of her organization.
Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. Escuchando las palabras de mis antecesores, no me puede dejar de embargar una gran emoción por poder estar compartiendo con ustedes en esta tarde. Como se dijo, yo soy de las primeras egresadas de mi país, de este centro, entonces eso todavía me llena de mucho más orgullo el estar acá compartiendo esta ceremonia tan especial con ustedes. Con la aprobación de la Ley Marco del Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, en el año 2008, el Estado de Guatemala crea el Consejo Nacional de Seguridad, así como la Secretaría Técnica del Consejo Nacional de Seguridad, ente técnico y profesional que ha permitido coordinar las labores de las instituciones que conforman el Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, buscando así la generación de una identidad colectiva, con la finalidad de prevenir los riesgos, enfrentar las amenazas y reducir las vulnerabilidades que de alguna forma atentan a la seguridad de la nación. Es de resaltar que en el corto periodo de tiempo que la Secretaría tiene funcionando, se han alcanzado avances significativos como los que ya han sido mencionados en esta tarde. Tal es el caso del Libro Blanco de Seguridad de Guatemala del año 2025, que tiene la siguiente visión: una Guatemala 2025 con seguridad y desarrollo. Se ha elaborado de la misma forma la Política Nacional de Seguridad, la Agenda Estratégica de Seguridad de la Nación y el Plan Estratégico de Seguridad de la Nación. Con estos instrumentos se busca la implementación, seguimiento y actualización de la problemática en materia de seguridad que nuestro país afronta. Es por ello que los instrumentos de seguridad de la nación no constituyen un fin en sí mismo, sino que lo que hacen es generar los insumos necesarios para buscar el funcionamiento, la transformación, el impulso de las instituciones que conforman el Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, con la finalidad de ir impulsando las palabras claves que nunca se nos van a olvidar: colaboración, cooperación y coordinación, como bien nos decía nuestro profesor Salvador Raza. Lo cual quiere decir que hemos alcanzado los mismos resultados, objetivos y formas de una manera integrada, eficiente y eficaz. La Secretaría Técnica del Consejo Nacional de Seguridad contribuye de esta forma activamente a su compromiso con el Consejo Nacional de Seguridad, así como a todas y cada una de las instituciones que forman parte del Sistema Nacional de Seguridad y otras instituciones del Estado, con la finalidad de producir resultados que trasciendan y que se vean reflejados en la seguridad de las personas, sus bienes y el fortalecimiento del Estado de Derecho, tal como se menciona en el Plan Estratégico de la Seguridad de la Nación del año 2016-2020. Que textualmente dice: cada institución conoce su rol respecto de la seguridad de la nación y comparte de la misma manera su compromiso por alcanzarla, por medio de acciones estratégicas que garanticen el cumplimiento de los objetivos y la generación de condiciones que contribuyan a propiciar un clima de confianza, estabilidad económica, política y social con una sostenibilidad. La Secretaría Técnica, que me honro en coordinar, ha aportado de esta forma en diversas estrategias, tomando en cuenta la variedad de dimensiones, ya que se ha aportado y se ha contribuido a trabajar con cada una de las instituciones desde el punto de vista del planeamiento y la integralidad. De la misma forma, todos y cada uno de los instrumentos trabajados buscan lo que los ejes de transformación que nosotros hemos trabajado durante el transcurso de estos años, orientados principalmente al ámbito sociohumano, ya que para nosotros el principal objeto y sujeto de atención obviamente es la persona. De igual forma, al tema político-económico, al ambiente, la energía, la alimentación, la tecnología y la inteligencia. Pero también tiene estrategias de varios niveles. ¿Por qué? porque también sabemos y estamos conscientes de la responsabilidad del tema de la seguridad y de la importancia de cada uno de los actores que en ella participan, ya sea desde el punto de vista multilateral, regional o global, así como estrategias en varios tiempos. ¿Por qué? Porque lo que precisa en este momento es hacer una intervención diferente, pero de acuerdo a las prioridades de todos y cada uno de nosotros, para hacerlas compatibles con las agendas de seguridad y de gobierno. Lo que se intenta entonces es un proceso de planeamiento estratégico, con la finalidad de asegurar esa coherencia entre actores y políticas que integran el Sistema Nacional de Seguridad antes, durante y después. Los beneficios que estas acciones y programas han desarrollado a lo largo de los años se ven reflejados en las diferentes políticas y planes sectoriales de cada una de las instituciones y por ende sus beneficios son trasladados a la sociedad, los que se ven percibidos como indicadores de éxitos del quehacer institucional. Esto, como bien lo decimos, multiplicado en productos acumulativos de seguridad que van reflejando día a día el quehacer y el fortalecimiento de cada una de nuestras instituciones. Todo esto sobre la base de los avances que la Secretaría Técnica ha logrado identificar en el transcurso de los años, ya que se ha alcanzado la suficiente madurez institucional para poder trazar los objetivos que el Libro Blanco de Seguridad plantea desde su primera página hasta la última. Y todo esto se ve reflejado en la Política Nacional de Seguridad desde la lógica articuladora de cada uno de los lineamientos que ésta contiene. Para estos momentos tenemos un Sistema Nacional de Seguridad fortalecido que permite que nuestro Estado funcione como un cuerpo orientado a la seguridad de las personas y que permita generar procesos transformadores que aseguren y consoliden el papel de cada una de las instituciones públicas y se refleje en su actuar coordinado y conjunto, y donde el rol de cada una de las instituciones se vincule con las demandas que la ciudadanía presenta día a día. Es por ello que el Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, a través de las funciones de priorización y regulación, facilita la estabilidad de nuestro entorno inmediato y de la región centroamericana. Es en este sentido que me permito compartirles que la Secretaría Técnica ha servido como ese impulso para la transformación de las instituciones del Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, en busca de alcanzar la gobernanza que tanto necesita nuestro país y aportando de esta forma al desarrollo para alcanzar esa visión de nuestro Libro Blanco, una Guatemala 2025 con seguridad y desarrollo. Finalmente, me permito agradecer al Centro Hemisférico de Estudios de Defensa, William J. Perry, que ha sido una parte muy importante para esa transformación y esa construcción de institucionalidad en nuestro país. Así como a todos y cada uno de los colaboradores de la Secretaría que en estos momentos están disfrutando también de esta transmisión en vivo. Y finalmente, a todas y cada una de las instituciones del Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, y por eso para mí es un gusto poder compartir este día con el señor Ministro de la Defensa, que es una de las instituciones que forma parte de nuestro Sistema Nacional de Seguridad, instituciones a las cuales dedico el premio recibido en esta tarde. No me queda más que agradecerles a todos y cada uno de ustedes por acompañarnos en este momento tan importante. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Silvia. Nos sentimos orgullosos de sus logros y nos complace, sentimos que algo del Centro Perry está ahí en su institución. The second awardee this afternoon is the Center for Defense Policy Studies of the Guatemalan Ministry of Defense. The Defense Policy Center has emerged as a leading Central American forum for examining and collaborating on pressing national and regional security issues. Functioning as a security and defense think tank supporting the Guatemalan security and defense system, the center offers courses and seminars for a wide variety of participants, covering topics such as regional security and defense challenges, and seeking consensus on appropriate policy and strategy responses. For over 15 years, the center has deployed their unique convening authority to gather a broad range of civilian, military, and foreign officials who participate in the center's programs either in person or virtually, with topical programming on subjects such as defense governance and a reach that extends far beyond their traditional defense establishment. The Center for Defense Policy Studies educates and empowers a truly national community of practitioners, not only in Guatemala, but in Central America. General Williams Alberto Mancilla Fernandez, Minister of National Defense, will accept the Perry Award on behalf of the Center for Defense Policy Studies.
Bueno, esperando no ser tan extenso porque ya está un poco cargado el ambiente, pero mi coronel, al señor Wilkins, mi coronel que estuvo en Guatemala, lo queremos mucho, le agradecemos mucho sobre tu trabajo y ahora desde el Centro de Estudios Hemisféricos. A la doctora Rebeca Chávez también. Bueno, y así a todos los funcionarios, a nuestros funcionarios de la Embajada de Guatemala, a todos los militares y otros funcionarios, gracias por estar con nosotros, por acompañarnos. Es importante para nosotros este día. Pues reciban todos ustedes un amistoso saludo de las mujeres y hombres que integran el Ejército de Guatemala. Una gran cantidad de ellos no habían nacido aún en Guatemala cuando se inició un proceso de relaciones civiles y militares impulsado de las Fuerzas Armadas en la segunda mitad de los años 80 y que buscaba la estabilidad nacional en un escenario de conflicto. El espíritu de esa actividad fue establecer puentes de comunicación entre distintos sectores de la sociedad con el quehacer de la defensa, utilizando como mecanismo de cambio la capacitación en seguridad y estrategia. Casi una década después, en Williamsburg, Virginia, en 1995, nos unimos a la convocatoria del entonces secretario de Defensa de este país, el señor William Perry, lo que dio origen a la Conferencia de Ministros de la Defensa de las Américas. De ese histórico momento sobreviven dos grandes visiones para el hemisferio: la relación entre funcionarios civiles y militares, así como la necesidad de profesionales civiles competentes en materia de defensa. Un año después de la mencionada reunión, Guatemala dio un gran paso hacia la paz al lograr el final del enfrentamiento armado interno en diciembre de 1996. En la discusión de los temas militares, en el entorno de los acuerdos firmados en esa oportunidad, se mostraban los grandes vacíos de conocimiento en aspectos de seguridad y defensa que existían entre los ciudadanos que discutían dichos temas. Esto fue subsanado en parte en el año 2003 con la elaboración del libro de la Defensa Nacional de la República de Guatemala, ya que en ese documento fue el producto de un proceso enriquecido por la participación multidisciplinaria de distintos actores de la sociedad civil y de las entidades de gobierno. Permito clasificar entonces la concepción confusa que se tenía entre seguridad y defensa, puntualizando los roles militares en la defensa y el compromiso de todos los ciudadanos tenían con la seguridad descritas en dicho libro. Ya se dibujaba entonces en dicho libro, en perspectiva, el Consejo Nacional de Seguridad, hoy una realidad, y que aquí tenemos a su secretaria. Ese mismo año, en México, la Conferencia Especial de Seguridad de la OEA, nuestros gobiernos consolidaron el carácter multidimensional de la seguridad del hemisferio. Estos aspectos permitieron conocer una realidad cada vez más compleja, más incierta, ajena a los clásicos conflictos interestatales, cuya atención demanda el esfuerzo de cada uno de los países, pero que demanda actuar con enfoque vecinal, regional y hemisférico, para así lograr una seguridad mutua por medio de mecanismos cooperativos. Este entorno variable, cuya única constante es el cambio, requiere de una capacitación continua. En Guatemala esto recrudece al tomar en cuenta los frecuentes cambios de funcionarios dentro de las entidades de gobierno, al menos cada 4 años, derivado de la dinámica política que tenemos. A su vez, en el interior de las Fuerzas Armadas de la Nación existe una rotación natural que oxigena la institucionalidad, pero que demanda la capacitación permanente para no generar esos vacíos. Ese es el norte que guía al sistema educativo militar, por lo que a su vez alimenta las distintas iniciativas que tenemos para compartir esos conocimientos con otros funcionarios en beneficio de una mejor relación y acción interinstitucional, principalmente en materia de defensa. Esta forma de actuación no es una idea que surja de la nada. Por el contrario, tiene su sustento en nuestra Constitución política, la cual establece que servir y defender a la patria es uno de los deberes y derechos cívicos y políticos de todo ciudadano guatemalteco. Con este gran marco referencial surgió el Centro de Estudios para la Defensa de la Dirección General de Política de Defensa, el cual aporta a la diseminación del conocimiento por medio de la participación proactiva en un libre intercambio de ideas sustentado en el respeto mutuo. Sus productos, a su vez, alimentan la institucionalidad de los procesos que hemos venido desarrollando. En ese caminar hemos recibido muchos apoyos. Es de resaltar la contribución que este centro ha dado a la consolidación de muchas de nuestras ideas. Agradezco al gobierno de los Estados Unidos, a los funcionarios del sector de defensa, pero singularmente a los anteriores y actuales integrantes de este centro, quienes con profesionalismo han acompañado el crecimiento de nuestros centros de estudios para la defensa y que principalmente han aportado su conocimiento en la maduración de las iniciativas que en él se han desarrollado. Digo lo anterior, ya que nadie es suficientemente capaz de hacer en soledad la titánica tarea que tenemos las instituciones de seguridad y de defensa ante este complejo escenario. El compartir experiencias, capacidades e inquietudes nos preparan en un conjunto para hacer frente a las amenazas y riesgos que como región compartimos en escenarios comunes. Estamos claros que estos intercambios son factibles, pues compartimos valores democráticos y somos conscientes que la buena gobernanza es indispensable para el logro de los objetivos nacionales. Basándonos en el efectivo Estado de Derecho, el respeto a los derechos humanos y en una administración transparente sustentada en la rendición de cuentas. Quiero cerrar estas palabras agradeciendo de nuevo este reconocimiento, el cual constituye un impulso para seguir construyendo por medio del ejercicio académico, que a su vez es un aliciente que nos confirma que vamos en buen camino. Asimismo, nos compromete a seguir trabajando mejor cada día. Esa es nuestra responsabilidad para con los ciudadanos, es nuestra obligación para con la sociedad y para con Guatemala, que es nuestra razón de ser. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, General Mencia. We have one more special recognition today. Perry Center Director Mark Wilkins will now say a few words of farewell to farewell one of our departing professors, Mr. Guillermo Pacheco. Mark.
Well, we're ending our presentations today on sort of a reflective note. I first met Guillermo Pacheco probably 13 years ago now. One of the very, I was in Guatemala as a brand new colonel commanding the military assistance group. And one of the characteristics of the Ministry of Defense of Guatemala is it's all military, top to bottom, from the minister on down. But there was this one person inside the ministry, a young architect who spent half of his day running the OAS's demining and unexploded ordnance program, as I recall. But the other half of the day, he was the political and policy advisor to the Guatemalan Minister of Defense. And then, as of now, and even back then, partnering with Guillermo, we were doing Defense Institution Building, or DIB, before it even had a name. And one of the things I found out about Guillermo very early is he had a relentless passion for driving the Guatemalan Defense and Security Institution platform towards modernization. And while I was there for 3 years, I had the opportunity to see him in action. And among the many things he did was he spearheaded what was then a groundbreaking project that resulted in Guatemala's very first Defense White Book. And I was fortunate to partner with Guillermo as part of that and numerous other defense reform projects that I judge with appropriate modesty on our behalf led us to where we actually are today with our institutional winners today. And that is a great credit to you and what you did then and what you've done since then. Guillermo left Guatemala and attended the Inter-American Defense College, where he was rapidly identified as a superstar. He was invited to join the Perry Center, first as an assistant professor for 8 years, and then the last 2 years as a professor of practice. He's an acknowledged expert on hemispheric defense and security matters, particularly on security and defense white books. He's called upon from all over the hemisphere, most recently by the OAS and the Inter-American Defense Board, helping Haiti form their future defense and security policy and structure for how their armed forces and security forces are going to play out. He's partnered with many countries, many international organizations, most looking to improve their defense sectors, and the accolades have always come in, and I don't think he's ever let them down. So this afternoon is a sad time for us. Guillermo is moving on to the next chapter of his life. I know he has many roads ahead of him that he can choose from, and that I've always said this, and Dr. Chavez will know that I've said this to her many times. Among your many qualities, I have probably never met a better facilitator in my now 35 years of government and military service. And I know that skill set will follow you in whatever comes next for you, and we only wish you the best. And so at this time, I'd ask you to come up on stage. We do have a couple of things we'd like you to leave with, and then, of course, give you the podium for your comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Director Mark Wilkins will present Professor Guillermo Pacheco with 2 awards recognizing his service to the United States government. The Defense Security Cooperation Agency's World of Excellence Award, presented by Mark Wilkins on behalf of Vice Admiral Joseph Frixie, Director, DSCA. Next, Mark will present Mr. Pacheco with a certificate designating him a Distinguished Member Emeritus of the William J. Perry Center. The citation reads, Mr. Guillermo Pacheco Gaitan is recognized for his exceptionally meritorious service to the William J. Perry Center for Hemispheric Defense Studies as a professor of practice from July 2006 to September 30th, 2016. During this period, his teaching, facilitation, and scholarship resulted in major contributions to the effectiveness and success of the Center's programs. Signed, Mark S. Williams.
Hay un viejo tango argentino que dice 20 años no es nada. Y cuando yo digo 10 años, si 20 años no es nada, menos aún. El libro de Eclesiastés en la Biblia dice que hay tiempo de reír y de llorar, de nacer, de morir. Y este es tiempo de cerrar ciclos. La vida es de ciclos. Abrimos un ciclo, cerramos ciclos. Y qué mejor que este escenario. Digo, qué mejor que este escenario porque casi que todos los actores que han estado partícipes en mi vida profesional están presentes. El que me inicia en los temas de seguridad y defensa, mi mentor, el embajador Gabriel Aguilera, ahora embajador ante la OEA en Washington, fue el que me empuja en estos temas, me abre la puerta de un think tank y empezamos a anhelar los temas de seguridad y defensa. Después el Ministerio de Defensa, esa oportunidad de entrar y creer que se puede hacer una institucionalidad diferente. El libro blanco, ese proceso que nos llevó muchos años hacer, y el hecho que esté aquí el ministro habiendo recibido el premio de una institución al cual tuve la oportunidad de crear, fui el que creó la Dirección General de Política de Defensa del Ministerio de Defensa, y en su momento cooptamos a Silvia, o sea, yo fui el reclutador de Silvia por instancias del embajador Aguilera y tuvimos a Silvia trabajando nosotros, o sea, tuvimos un buen ojo para poder reclutar a Silvia, entonces están aquí todos. Y en su momento, el ahora director Mark Wilkins, que apoyó el proceso en el que estábamos, creyó para poder venir a este país y agradecer a este país el abrir las puertas para soñar, seguir soñando, porque al final de cuentas la vida es de sueños. A mi esposa, que ha estado siempre presente, y decir que al cerrar este ciclo, y aquellos que nos están viendo, los amigos que nos están viendo por internet, por los alumnos que son la razón de ser de nosotros, el hecho de haber estado aquí, de haber impactado tantas vidas, decirles que nos vamos a seguir viendo, que el próximo reto es aprender a diseñar futuro, seguir soñando en diseñar futuro, y creo que este ciclo se cerró. Y para cerrar no puedo más que recordar las palabras de Job en el libro de Job en la Biblia. Cuando él perdió todo, dijo: Jehová dio, Jehová quitó, bendito sea el nombre del Señor. Gracias.
Gracias, Guillermo. Well, all good things must come to an end. I'd just like to end by saying to Sylvia de Leon and Minister Mancilla, I'm grateful that both of you could spend this afternoon with us and share insights into the respective works of your organizations. In a 1-hour ceremony, we're only able to highlight a small fraction of what your institutions have done to be able to contribute to the broader security and defense community, not only in Guatemala, but in all of Central America. I hope that your work, like the work of so many past Perry Award winners, will inspire yet another generation of scholars and practitioners to the kind of exceptional efforts that we honor here today. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to provide just a personal note of thanks to all of those friends of the Perry Center I see here in the audience who have supported us not only in the last years, but in the last 19 years with this organization. Many of you have shared generously with us over the years, and I would like to thank, we do have Jay Cope, previous director of the center, and Ken LaPlante, who was acting director of the center for several years. This institution was built on your shoulders, and I hope that you're proud of what it has become. So for all of you who have helped us over the years, thank you. And I now conclude the ceremony today with an invitation to join us for a reception in honor of today's award winners. Thank you very much for coming.